Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, she's a speaker, she's a trainer, and she's the author of this best-selling book, Pick Your Path. We'll share her journey next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, there's an old saying, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Zig Ziglar, a friend of mine, the late great Zig Ziglar, used to say, it's your stinking thinking. And I think we're all victims to that, aren't we? We get in a kind of a rabbit hole of thoughts, and we keep going down this rabbit hole, but you can course correct. You can actually pick your path. And that's what my next guest is going to talk about. Elizabeth Mahusay is in the studio. Yes. She's an author, speaker, and trainer, and my friend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So you've been speaking now for decades, haven't you?
Yes.
How did it start for you?
Well, it started by going to college to become a teacher. And so I got a chemistry degree and then went on to get my master's. And while I was getting my master's degree, I had the privilege of being mentored by Dr. Joyce Burek-Swarzman. And that's where my speaking began. She started putting me in front of groups of teachers in training and also in the leadership program that we were responsible for. So it began there.
Awesome. And tell me about there's an art to speaking, because I've never given a TED Talk, and we're going to show a clip from yours in a minute. What is it about speaking that you love?
I absolutely love connecting with the audience, right? For me, Fred and I, my husband, he talks about he feels the pleasure of the Lord behind the camera. I say that I feel the pleasure of the Lord on a stage. Seeing the faces, recognizing that the message that you bring is going to impact people differently and uniquely, and just being sensitive to that. I love being able to see people moved to change as a result of my speaking.
I love it. And as I said, I've never done a TED Talk. It's tough to do a TED Talk because you've got a little countdown. I mean,
the TED organization has a lot of requirements. I mean, you have to go through coaching, regardless of whether or not you're a professional speaker or not. So you go through coaching, you've got the run-throughs, you've got the red dot you have to stay on.
Sure.
But it was truly an honor to be able to take the stage on the red dot, for sure.
Cool. We can't show the whole TED Talk, it's too long, but let's show a clip from it.
Yeah.
You know, we've heard some incredible breakthrough stories this evening, haven't we? Your brain is not your friend. I want you to imagine that you're going to a performing arts theater to see your favorite musical. You walk in, you're finding your seat. The crowd is abuzz with anticipation. You sit down, the curtains rise, the music swells. You are into it. You are enjoying the singing, the dancing, the acting, until someone runs out onto the front apron of the stage and throws a rubber snake into the audience. Your eye catches it, and you start saying, "Snake, snake, snake." And the crowd goes crazy. They are crawling over the chairs. They're practically stampeding each other to get out of the theater, all because of a harmless rubber snake. Now, why is that? You see, researchers at MIT discovered that it only takes the human brain 13 milliseconds to fully process visual information to which you have been exposed. So your eye sees the snake and you conclude it's a real snake. And listen, snakes can be harmful. And even if they aren't, ew. I'm glad some of you can relate to that. And this is where your brain is not your friend, because you're seeing something and you're believing it to be real, even though it isn't. I like to call this the rubber snake theory. And this became true and real in my life when we made a cross-country move more than 10 years ago from Tampa, Florida to right here in McKinney, Texas, to restart not one, but 2 businesses. And now we have friends who are like, Fred and Elizabeth, it's going to take you at least 12 months in order to restart those businesses. And we were like, what? Do you know us? It is not going to take us that long. But you know what? It was hard. We weren't prepared for exactly how hard it was. The reality of not having friends, everything being new, feeling like really like fish out of water. People not buying what you're selling. And let's face it, when you're selling something and no one's buying, you get the idea. And so that experience that we had was really, it helped me to go, okay, Elizabeth, you talk all the time about how you think and what you do. Are you going to really just talk about it, or are you going to actually live it?
That's good.
So powerful. I think we're all a victim of the rubber snake effect, right?
Yeah, for
we're
sure.
always running from fake fears and dangers. I want to talk about your career as an author, because I wrote one book 20 years ago and it almost killed me. You've written several books. Why don't we start with your first book and hold it up and show us the book.
So this is Transform My Thinking, God. I really began to love writing when I started writing women's Bible studies. And so this book is a Bible study based in the book of Philippians. But what I do within this work is I take my love of the brain and how the brain works, how we rewire the brain, and I put it alongside of how we can use scripture in that process through the book of Philippians. So this was the one where it felt like it was going to kill me, because it was the first one. And then I promise you, it gets easier with each one that you do. Yeah.
All right, show us the second
All
one.
right, so this was the second one. So this is Mirror Image, Living a Life That Reflects Christ. This is based around a Bible study on the book of Colossians. Because before we moved to Texas, I had written 10 Bible studies.
Wow.
And was ready to start getting those published. And then once the second study came out, then really my focus was I want a more a personal and professional development book, which ultimately ended up being Pick Your Path.
Wow. And then your latest book actually went on to become a bestseller.
Yes, an international bestseller.
Yes. That's amazing.
It does not get old seeing things come in from France and the UK and Australia. It's awesome.
All right, tell us about the book.
So Pick Your Path is based on actually one of my signature keynotes, which is called Pick Your Path, how to set your mental autopilot on the right course. And the idea behind it is we have neural pathways in our brain that either are serving us well or they are not. And in order to have better thinking, we have to choose to pick your path. So in the book, it's 21 individually packaged lessons that will have an individual thinking through, do I want to pick a path of positive thinking or negative thinking? Do I want to pick, so it's all about the choices that we're making. Do I go with forward motivation or away motivation? Because we're all motivated differently. Right. So in some cases, one path is clearly more advantageous than another path. Right. In other cases, it's really more which path is going to serve you best based on your circumstances, who you are, what you're wanting to accomplish.
Outstanding. We're going to show your website, and as we scroll down the website, I want to talk about the kinds of groups that you like to speak to. What's your core audience?
So my core audience would be, presently, I do a lot of speaking in the business space. So whether it's corporations that are looking to bring in a motivational keynote speaker or inspirational keynote speaker, or to really speak to the sales and leadership enablement and development. And then, of course, I will always have a passion for being in faith-based groups.
Absolutely. And you also have a very popular podcast. We're going to pull up your YouTube page that shows all your podcasts. Tell us about the topics that you like to tackle.
Yes. Okay. So thinking that matters, because it goes back to my love of having great thinking. So the podcast is centered around how when we cultivate thinking that matters, we can live a life, build a business, have a home life that matters. And so whether it's individual lessons that I'm sharing from the course of my 30 plus years as being out in the world, or interviewing individuals, specifically entrepreneurs, business owners, folks who may not be able to have their story told. In many ways, some of the mission that you're on, even with your show, and really digging in with them, the power of their thinking and developing good thinking. So I usually will ask people about the limiting beliefs that they faced in making the decision to open a company or to build it or to scale it, and how they overcame it, so that the listener can really learn not only practical ways that they can have thought transformation, but also be encouraged in their own journey of thought transformation.
So powerful. Let's talk about your favorite client or your most favorite recent client.
Okay. So a favorite recent client was doing training for the leadership of a federal credit union in a different state. And they have a great organization. What they were looking to do was to provide practical leadership training for not only their assistant managers, but also their managers. And so they brought us in, and we really focused for that particular group on the one-on-one and how to have the most impactful one-on-one meetings with those who report to you. So again, very practical.
Right.
But what it did was gave those managers an opportunity to hear from a third-party outside voice.
Yep.
I like to say that we're like the neighbor that the kids listen to, right? We don't want to listen to mom and dad, but the neighbor, when the neighbor says it, they're like, "Oh, yes, that's so good." And so that's what we that's part of my heart in that training, or even in that speaking setting.
Okay, so in the final 2 minutes or so, look into that camera on the left and talk to the organization or the company that might need to bring you in to speak.
Awesome. So where are you in need of infusing motivation, infusing confidence and competence in your people, whether they are in a sales role, a leadership role, or you're just looking to grow or scale your company, your business? Then I invite you to allow me to speak into and have a discovery meeting with you. I love connecting with organizations and individuals that are desiring to grow. And one of my specialties, obviously, is we've got to address the thinking, because most of the time we try to address the behavior to the neglect of the thinking, and that's where we get a lot of frustration.
Wow, you're a great guest. I could listen to you all day. We're gonna end with her website, which is her name, ElizabethMahusay.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.